Hamas released more hostages overnight, and another round is expected soon. The ceasefire is set to expire later today, and there's continued pressure for another extension to release more captives.
So far, 80 hostages have been freed from captivity in Gaza. Descriptions of their treatment at the hands of Hamas include threatening children at gunpoint. CBN's Paul Strand has more from Jerusalem.
Hamas freed 12 more hostages, while Israel let 30 more Palestinian prisoners go free on the 5th day of a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. That ceasefire is due to end on Wednesday, its 6th day, but negotiators are hoping for another extension. Word's getting out how hostage children were treated. The aunt of one child who's been freed says their captors forced them to watch videos of the October 7th massacres and ordered them to stop crying at gunpoint. She also says they beat the children. The father of 9-year-old freed hostage Emily Hand says she cries uncontrollably, and her captors made her stay so quiet she can now only whisper. In Israel, a medical official overseeing freed hostages described the condition and the spirit of the adult females among them.
A group of extraordinary women that endured the hardships of their captivity in a remarkable fashion.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration is leaning on Israel to go easier on southern Gaza than it has on the north when fighting resumes. The White House points out millions of Gazans fled south when the Israeli military attacked the north, so there's really nowhere else for those civilians to go. Surveys like AP polling show Americans still backing Israel, but worrying about non-combatants in Gaza.
The American people are broadly supportive of Israel's right to defend itself. There's also growing concern for the plight of civilians in Gaza.
But since Hamas hides out among civilians, that could make it almost impossible for Israel to achieve its goal of destroying Hamas. A goal Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told troops fighting in Gaza they must achieve if Israelis are ever to feel safe and secure again.
In another development, Germany and the European Union are freezing funding for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA. Its education programs for millions of Palestinian youth over the years are accused of teaching anti-Semitism and glorifying terrorism.
A report by the watchdog group UN Watch profiles 118 UNRWA-educated Palestinians who went on to commit terrorist acts against Israel. The same report also shows a number of UNRWA teachers or workers celebrating the October 7th massacres. One said of the brutal attacks, "This is an unforgettable, glorious morning." Israel is fighting back with more than guns, tanks, and jets. There's also prayer. The Knesset, Israel's parliament, was the site of a Wednesday prayer meeting. Many Christians joined their Jewish brothers and sisters to pray.
There are literally tens of millions, probably more, of conservative Christians, let's say Christians who take the Bible and its message seriously, who still see the difference between good and evil.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
There's a breaking story today out of the Financial Times where a senior CIA official posted a pro-Palestinian comment, posted that picture on her Facebook page. It shows the deep divisions that we're having right now in our own government. This isn't just any CIA official. This is the one who was responsible for the president's daily briefings. So just imagine trying to have moral clarity when your own staff, your own intelligence agency, your own State Department is objecting and saying we need to continue funding for UNRWA, we need to worry about the Palestinian cause, all of these things. And it's amazing to me that we're losing the moral clarity of what happened. The horrific attack on innocent civilians by a terror group. Our government, these same intelligence services, this same State Department, says Hamas is a terror group. Why in the world would you inject, I just don't understand the poor judgment here to inject that kind of thing into your own Facebook page. It brings into question what you're advising the president to do. It just is absolutely incredible that we would have this kind of division happening right now in our own government. As Americans, we should all keep in mind, Hamas is dedicated to our destruction too. That's part of their covenant. They first want to take Israel out. If they ever succeeded at that, they would then turn against us. Let's have moral clarity. Let's be like Germany. Germany's taking the lead on this. no more funding for UNRWA, a very strong stance against anti-Semitism. We need to have the same thing at all levels of government right here in the United States. Well, for more on this story, we have Ilan Levy. He's the spokesman for the Israeli government. He joins us now from Tel Aviv. And so what's the official response to Germany and the EU now pulling funds from UNRWA?
Of course, we've been clear since the October 7th massacre that this was a moment of clarity for the world, a moment of moral clarity and a moral test. Are you with Israel or are you with the barbaric savages who perpetrated that massacre? Are you with humanity or with savagery, with civilization or with barbarism? And there can be absolutely no tolerance for anyone who continues to amplify and aggravate the Hamas message that Israel must be destroyed, that there's no room for the Jewish state. And UNRWA plays a key role in aggravating that Palestinian narrative and telling Palestinians 75 years on from the 1948 war that instead of building their own homes, instead of investing in their own future, they should strive to destroy the state of Israel and to replace it. We think it's very important for the world to be absolutely clear, crystal clear on that matter. Israel has an inalienable and natural right to exist within strong borders. And any agency that is teaching children hatred, teaching them anti-Semitism, teaching them martyrdom and jihad has no role in raising the next generation of Palestinian children. And that's why we've said that after this war, 3 things have to happen the day after Hamas. There needs to be demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. There needs to be reconstruction, and there needs to be de-radicalization as well, because we cannot have the next generation of Palestinian children being brought up on the same diet of martyrdom and jihad and hatred of Israel and the West as UNRWA has been teaching in its schools for far too long.
Well, I'll add to it that in Ramallah, we need to take down all of the statues, the honors that are given to the refrigerator bomber, the one who invented the suicide vest with ball bearings. There's such a culture of hatred. It is absolutely incredible, and they're teaching generation after generation to hate and to actually have joy on killing Israelis. It's amazing that
and by the way, that was one of the most horrific things about the October 7th massacre, and the footage that came out, the footage that was recorded on Hamas's own GoPros. You can hear them singing with jubilation and celebration as they perpetrated these satanic atrocities against the people of Israel. It's sick, it's twisted, and it's really important that people call that out and understand what's happening.
Well, what can you tell us about the negotiations? What's the potential for yet another extension of the ceasefire?
At the moment, we're on day 6 of the hostage release pause. It was originally meant to go on for 4 days. That has been extended. We've got 60 Israeli nationals out of Hamas captivity, in addition to many more foreign nationals as well. And the offer on the table now is for every additional day of a hostage release pause, Hamas will give us back 10 hostages. This is happening because we had Hamas begging for a breather, because a month and a half of Israel's military campaign, of Israel's unrelenting military pressure, had Hamas being clobbered and begging for a breather. That's why they're giving us back hostages in order to buy time, one day. And we're clear that as soon as Hamas stops giving us back hostages, that pause is also going to stop, and we're going to go back with full force after the Hamas army of terror to pressure it to release all of the hostages. We're committed to that pledge. There will be no one left behind. And then ultimately towards totally eradicating the Hamas army of terror and terror regime in the Gaza Strip so that it can never attack our people with these satanic atrocities it unleashed on October 7th.
We rejoice with you with every single hostage that is being released. The protection of their lives is absolutely paramount. On the other side, there's criticism, and I'll just use the criticism that's coming from Israeli society today, that the ceasefire is allowing Hamas to reload. So how do you balance that risk with freeing more hostages?
The hostage release pause is also allowing the IDF to prepare better for the next stage. Our army is also being able to rearm, regroup, refuel, and prepare for the difficult stage of fighting ahead. But it's important to understand that this war that we are fighting, this war that we're fighting in response to the October 7th massacre, when Hamas brutally murdered 1,200 of our people in the most sadistic way imaginable, we have two main goals: to bring back the hostages and to destroy Hamas so it can never take hostages again. And when we have an opportunity to temporarily pause the fighting, which benefits us as well, and temporarily pause the fighting so that we can rescue these poor innocent children and women and the men as well from the hellhole that they have been trapped in inside Gaza, then of course we're going to do everything we can to get those people back. You spoke just before about the horrific conditions that they were being held in, the sheer psychological torture that those children were subjected to, and we're not willing to put up with that for a day longer. So when we have a chance, we're doing everything we can to get them out and rescue them.
For years, it appears that Israeli politics has been deeply divided. And the effort to try to form a government just seemed to be an endless election after election after election. How united is Israel today on the fight against Hamas, and then united on what's the path to peace long term?
Israeli society is completely united at the moment towards the goal of destroying Hamas, and we're united with a very strong sense of justice. The October 7th massacre made clear to everyone in this country what the stakes are, why we need our country, what we have to do in order to keep ourselves safe. And everyone from left to right understands that there is only one way this war can end, with the end of Hamas. And I have to say, it's a real credit to Israeli society and the strength and resilience of Israeli society that after a year of deep political polarization inside Israel, of deep division, of very painful arguments inside Israel, as soon as the massacre started on October 7th, everyone dropped everything and understood that right now we have only one task, united as a nation, and that is to bring back our hostages and destroy Hamas so it can never terrorize our people again.
No, we stand with you in this struggle, and I echo the words of President Roosevelt back in World War II when asked about peace with Nazi Germany, and his response was unconditional surrender. You know, at this point in time, Hamas should not exist, just as the Nazis should never be in government in Germany. He drew a line and said, no, this will never happen again. We're not going to let you stay in power. Hamas should not exist anymore, and we stand with you and stand strong all the way through to the end.
Thank you for those words of solidarity. They mean a lot to us. Thank you very much.